Hello and welcome, I'm Arumba, thank you for joining me. Let's not play, but talk about the Holy Roman Record Race campaign. So this is going to be the summary video where we just kind of talk about how things went, and how the strategy worked, and what could have been better, what went well, what went bad, that whole thing. So if you didn't watch the whole series, or you dived in like halfway through or something, you don't know how we actually got where we were, this was a recording, or this series was completed on patch 1.9, the Art of War patch, and it was started before they did a hotfix. So what we had done is we took advantage of you used to be able to, you cannot any longer demand imperial territory from countries, and they would always say yes if like they couldn't core the province, or like if they had enough reasons to say yes, they would say yes, and when you would do that, you would gain imperial authority. And so what you could do is at the beginning of Art of War, you could transfer occupation to anybody. And so Paradox fixed it in 3 different ways. They really overkilled this bug, or this exploit. Number 1, they made it so you could only transfer provinces to people that had a claim, a core, or adjacency. So you can no longer transfer provinces that people couldn't possibly core. Second, they made it so that the AI will just flat out never accept a demand for imperial territory. Like never. It'll just never happen. And then thirdly, the other way that they patched it was they took away the imperial authority gain for doing demanded unlawful territory. And it's like, well, why even do that? Because who's going to actually say yes? No one will ever say yes. Why? I mean, it doesn't make sense. So, but anyway, they completely squashed the idea, but not before this campaign had already abused the hell out of it, and we reformed the empire to like this, like basically the very last reform, very quickly. I don't remember how long it was, 30, 40 years, something like that. And so then from there, you know, 30 years in, we're stronger than anyone, and we just started expanding in every direction. Now, I think I could have done a lot better with this campaign had I just immediately just made a straight beeline for Spain and Portugal. If I had just ruined them and like made them my vassal or done whatever, if we had full annexed them early on and prevented all of this, it would have been a much, much easier campaign. Because you saw, or I don't know if you saw it all, but dealing with these islands is just such a pain in the ass. I hate islands. I hate them with a passion. Even with auto-fleet transportation being introduced, there's still a pain in the ass. There's so many of them. You've got naval landings, you've got rebellions, you've got it's just a complete mess and a pain in the ass. So I think that going after the colonial nations early is very important. And the thing is that you got to really be careful about how you actually take over a colonial nation. If you full annex them, you inherit their subject nations, their colonial nations. If you vassalize them, the subject nations break free. Sorry, the colonial nations will break free. If you vassalize them, and then, like, let's say you vassalize Spain before they have a colonial nation, and then as they're colonizing, they create a colonial nation, then it's okay to integrate them, and you'll inherit their colonial nations. But if the colonial nation exists before you vassalize, it will break free upon annexation. So you don't want to do it that way. Like, you've got to be very cautious about how you handle it. But what I would have done better is focused my entire efforts, all of my efforts, on Spain and Portugal, and probably Great Britain as well. You know, France probably would have been better off being an ally until that was done. Instead of like attacking France right away, who is the biggest threat, I should have just been allies with them. Because Austria and France can be friends. You can be friends in the beginning of the game. I think. Actually, did they start off rival? I don't remember. But I think it's possible to flip it, become friends with them. But killing Spain and Portugal, definitely the thing that slowed us down the most. And then second to that, really my only other 2 concerns, aside from the painfully slow conquest of moving out, was that I should have been a lot more tactical about giving away land, like exactly to who. It's very difficult to do when you're playing in Iron Man mode and you're recording for YouTube, like to actually take the amount of time necessary. It's not like I can just like stop and look around. I don't want to pause and edit and do all kinds of editing on every video, so. But if you're doing this, if you're trying to follow along and do it like single player, you can still kind of do this strategy in future patches. Like, by creating long, contiguous countries that kind of spread out from the empire, I was able to increase. They were little helpers, you know. They would core stuff for you. They would keep your overextension down, keep revolt risk down. They would spend monarch points for you. And that was a big part of this whole thing, is using the HRE to help save you monarch points. but I didn't use enough of them. We saw towards the end that I had 3 big countries that were like so strong that they almost refused the last reform, even though I had 100 imperial authority. It was Tuscany, Liège, and Bremen who were all like, yeah, well, that sounds good, but we don't wanna. Had I just had like double the number of vassals, it would have been easier for them to core. It would have been less difficult to mess around with actually integrating the country at the very end, and just in general, I think it would have been easier. Other than that, the ideas that we took influence first. I think that's fine. That helped out a lot with actually getting the first reforms passed. Religious, I don't know that that was really necessary. I'd say humanist probably would have been better by far. Because at the end of the day, the amount of land that I had was not that much. Most of the land was held by the vassal swarm until the end of the game. Still, I don't know. Deus Vult was not that great. Most of the conquest happened after imperialism became available. Diplomatic is very good because of the decreased province war score costs. You can just conquer a lot more land, and you can truce break more often. That was pretty valuable. Quantity early on kind of helped out. Toward the end, of course, we've got 3.5 million manpower. All that stuff is not really necessary. The rest of the ideas didn't matter. They weren't a factor in succeeding or not. But I don't know. It's going to be a long, long time before I want to do another colonial or another world conquest, because it's tedious. I don't want anyone to go into a world conquest thinking that, oh, this is going to be a lot of fun. No, it's not. Like, don't do a world conquest unless you are obsessive, an achievement whore, or you are glutton for punishment. Like, don't do it unless you have like at least one of those characteristics in your mind. Like, that has to be part of your personality. Because it's just a bunch of micro, it's a very arduous, long process. We're talking 60, 70 hours of gameplay here just for this thing. And most of it was spent not having fun. You know, like, it's fun, but it's like, it's work. It's a frustrating process. It's not like playing and just enjoying the game. It's like, yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to want to do this again for a long time. I think World Conquests is actually what burned me out on Crusader Kings 2, and if I tried doing too many World Conquests in EU4, I know for sure it would burn me out on this game as well. I would start to hate the game. Because you just, like, the minor mechanics like overextension and rebels and, like, just weird things like this thing that happened at the end here where I had to release La Plata and then attack them again because there was a vassal to a colonial nation and it didn't count, and it's like the minor little weird mechanics like that will just drive you nuts. So anyway, yeah, that's basically the summary I had for the series. Long story short again is just the colonial nations was the biggest part, and moving forward, knowing that they're changing a lot in the El Dorado expansion, I think that a lot of this information is going to already be outdated, which is the nature of World Conquest. Every time someone does it and they find an exploit or a mechanic that they can abuse, then it usually gets fixed. So, sorry this is coming out like the day of the expansion, but that's the rub. You'll have to figure it out on your own. Haha. Byzantine nationalists are at a 100% rebellion chance, apparently. Alright, cool. Well, I look forward to seeing you in the next video, the next series. Thank you for watching if you watched the whole thing, and if you didn't, you should go check it out. It's pretty cool. I had fun audibly most of the time, even though I was stressed out most of the time as well. We'll see. Alright, thanks for watching, everyone. See you soon.